The best and most important device that I have in this studio is the one I'm going to be reviewing today. If you clicked on this video, chances are you're here to see and hear about the wonderful RME ADI 2.4. I've never really been a huge fan of RME's technology across the board. I know it's a lot of good value, a lot of good I/O, a lot of really well built devices, but I've never been a fanboy for their converters. I always found that the converters definitely left something to be desired, but that was because I never got into their really high end converters, at least not consciously. Today, I'm going to be going over my RME ADI 2.4 Pro SE, and I'm going to start this video off by saying it is the best converter, almost interface that I've ever used ever, and I think that I've ever heard in any studio ever before for a number of reasons. The first thing that you guys have to know about this converter is that it is built for mixing, it's built for mastering. This particular version of the RME ADI is so great because it has 4 analog outputs and 2 analog inputs. This allows you to both monitor your mix if you have analog speakers and have your loopback going at the same time without having to unplug or route anything, which is brilliant. So it's perfect for a mix bus situation. That said, this particular device has so many more features than any converter ever that I've ever used before has. It really is almost an interface, but just lacks some of the key features interfaces have, like onboard console monitoring and other small quirks like that. At the same time, it does have other things a lot of interfaces don't have, which is onboard DSP. You can use EQs, you can manage all the filters, you can do so much within this device. That on top of the fact that it has so much I/O. If the 4 outputs and 2 inputs isn't enough just for your conversion, you also have a bunch of AES in and outs, and you can use either SPDIF or ADAT to connect to this device as well for any case uses, whether that be using other interfaces or whatever it is. Of course, for me, knowing that I got the PMC-62s behind me, I love the AES option for this device, as it allows me to monitor using AES into my AES digital monitors and gives me the most pristine and clean sound. So this device is really at the heart of my studio. In particular, something that I want to talk about for those of you who are curious about the RME ADI is how good it is when it comes to capturing audio. Because you can control all the DAC and AD filters in it, and because there's such a tremendous amount of clarity and quality in the converter here, it really opens you up to a world of quality in recording that I think a lot of people never knew was possible. Chances are, if you watch a lot of mixing and mastering videos, you've seen people who record vocals or record guitars, and oftentimes with vocals especially, people boost 10K by like 4 dB, 6 dB, 12K by 4 to 6 dB as well on a Pultec EQ or just on a regular EQ, and there's definitely good reason for that at times. I think a lot of people do overdo it, and there's ways to make it much more natural, but that's a whole other story. The reason that a lot of people end up doing this kind of thing, in my opinion, typically is because they're using a microphone combination with their voice that isn't really good. They're using analog preamps or preamps that aren't really suiting the vocalist, or they're using a converter that's really dark and they're recording at 44.1 kilohertz sample rate. Now, you can record at 441 or 48. 48 used to be the sworn in, sample rate for recording in most major studios, but with this converter, if you upsample to 96 kilohertz, you have no roll off or no coloring, darkening of the sound at all on your signal. And so that gives you a completely clean and open and transparent performance. And this is really cool because what that enables you to do is go into your mix and realize, hey, I don't have to boost super high up here anymore. I don't have to give that extra 4 dBs of boost when I record vocals or really open up my guitars when I'm recording acoustic guitars anymore, right? You don't have to do that anymore because of how detailed and open the character and the sound of this converter is. Now, for those of you who are curious about how I've compared this converter to other converters and if I've experienced other converters, I've got a tremendous amount of experience with converters, and I've tried a couple of the kind of boutique ones as well, and they've also gotten good results. But as far as the sub $20,000 range, I've used pretty much everything that is viable out there, and this particular converter, it definitely to me is at the top of my list. I've wrestled with it before, I've felt certain things about it, and I absolutely thoroughly enjoy and love it. Now, if you guys are interested or even have an RME2 or ADI2 converter, or even just the DAC, you know that there is a lot to it. The manual is a book, okay? And it's not very simple to learn it. It took me like a month to really become acquainted to all the features, and every time I got something new, like the AES speakers, It was a whole new learning curve for me, figuring out how to use them with these speakers and be able to use the volume control even though it's AES and all that. But if you take the time to learn it, it's really worth it. And if you don't like reading the book, you don't like reading books that are boring, like I don't, there's also a really, really good alternative. If you're in the US or in Canada, you can call a gentleman named Jeff at tech support at RME. And shout out to Jeff if you're watching this. He was so helpful. The customer service was amazing from RME. Every time I called Syntax, and they helped me figure out everything. Anything that came up or any questions I had about the filters, the AES, everything about this device was so easily facilitatable and figure outable with Jeff's help. So thank you, Jeff, and thank you RME for having such good customer service. Really tremendous. The best of any brand I think that I've purchased so far. You guys reply to my emails, you guys pick up my calls, you guys have all the answers for me, and you even let me speak to the developers when I feel like something is going wrong or I feel like there's something that could be improved. And one thing that's really, really great about RME, for those of you who don't know, this particular device was created specifically because mastering and mixing engineers were calling them out, saying, hey, the RME ADI 2 is great, but it'd be so nice if it could have this and this and this. It's so close to being perfect. And maybe a year later, RME said, we hear you, and here it is. Here's the fix with all of the things that you guys have wanted. So on to something really, really important when it comes to this device is the headphone amps. I use Audeze headphones, and I use open back headphones, and these headphones typically require extra power and require just a little bit more quality than other regular headphones do in order to perform really well. For those of you who know my channel, you know I absolutely adore my Audeze MM500s. I know that they're fantastic, fantastic headphones. They enable me to do things I didn't know headphones could, but them paired specifically with the RME ADI has proven to be a winning combination because the headphone amps on the RME ADI 2.4 are tremendous. Supposedly there's just a little bit more power in this one than there is in the ADI 2, even though I'm sure the ADI 2 has plenty sufficient power to be able to power headphones like this. And the sound, the character, whatever is in those headphone amps is very clean, and it sounds identical to what's coming out of the back of the device as well, which is just incredible. So happy with it that way. And I got the chance to compare this headphone amp against the RNHP dedicated headphone amp and an SPL headphone amp. And I got to compare it as well to all the other headphone amps and interfaces I got, like the Apollo, the Prism. I compared it to the RME 802, which actually had a pretty good one. Actually, I did really like that. It had a good flavor to it. It made it easy to produce and mix, but it wasn't super transparent. The Symphony one, which was pretty good. You know, I've tried a bunch of different headphone amps and all the interfaces and headphone amps that I could find. This is the best one. It sounds the best to me. It just does what it says it does. And if you pair it with the right DAC filter, it really, really is super, super sweet. Now, if you guys are curious about DAC filters and how that whole situation works, definitely do some research on it. It's a little complicated, but the book explains everything. In the manual, it talks about everything you need to know about each filter, explains everything in depth, and what you can do, and I highly recommend you do, is you download the manual and you upload it to ChatGPT and ask it all the questions you want to ask so it can explain it to you the way that you want to understand it. And that'll help you really grasp the concepts of why it's important to even understand these different filters. And you can then decide which filter is going to fit best for your headphones. So which DAC filter. Tremendous work of art, work of technology. Honestly, just brilliant on behalf of RME, on RME's behalf. I really am grateful to own one of these things. This I love, adore, and absolutely recommend it to anybody who is curious about buying an RME product or buying a really good dedicated converter. You cannot go wrong. RME's not sponsored this. If you want to, go ahead though. I mean, I'm happy to support certain products like this one that are just, you just hit it out the park. So thank you RME for making such a great device to be the heart of my studio and a big reason for why I'm able to do the kind of work at the level I'm able to do it. Thank you very much, and I hope this helps you guys out if you're curious about this device or don't know about it. More people should know about it. But that is all I have for today for that review. If you have any questions about the RME ADI 2.4 Pro SE, leave it in the comment section. If you have anything to say about it, leave it in the comment section as well. Please do share this video with anybody who might be curious about this device, and subscribe to the channel for more reviews and gear talk and other nerdy stuff that us nerds like to talk about. Thank you very much for tuning in, and ciao.